Andy Campbell! It's in! Campbell comes off the bench to be a hero! A superhero! Breakthrough! It's taken a while, but it's been worth the wait for Cardiff City!
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode number 67. The show is available live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter and Periscope. A.C.E Podcast Nation, also your home to many other shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. So please give us a follow on social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the most direct way to support the channel and the show. You can get the links to everything in the description below, as well as in the closing credits. And of course, you can find the audio versions to this show and every other show we do at your favourite radio and podcasting app. And just while we wait for the chat to fill up, as it were, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports and Martin Spate. Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency representing sports stars around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media page, as well as their brand new, lovely looking website, which is beautiful. And a big thank you to them for all the support surrounding the show. And as well as that, a big thank you to Bespoke Financial for sponsoring today's show. And here's a quick word from them.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, big thank you to Bespoke Financial. Bespoke Financial specialise in life insurance, critical illness, income protection, mortgages, and of course, sports cover. So as usual, we'll be talking a bit of football. We're going to start with some any other business and then move through the gears and talk to our guest about his career and whatever else comes up in the live chat. So with no further ado, first of all, I have joining me as usual my co-host, the goal collector, David Jones' favourite son, the fox in the box, still the king of the Millennium Stadium, Mr. Chin Up himself, ex-Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend.
Hello, mate. That was an extra long introduction like that. No, I love that. Do you know what? Right, this is and I'm probably going to embarrass our guest before he comes on, before we introduce him. But yeah, I know him as a young lad, and he's now an adult, believe it or not. Which is, I think it just proves how old I am, and yeah, really excited to talk and delve into what we're going to talk about next. It's going to be super excited to have a current footballer on the show.
Yeah, we've had Joe joins a good list of current footballers that we've had on, mate. We've had a couple of championship players now, and they've all been top class. But I was feeling a bit talkative, mate, so I thought I'd give you an extra introduction after my little.
Always appreciate it.
It's probably my little chat on TalkSport 2 then. Little plug. Go check that out after the show. Tonight's guest started his professional career at the mighty Cardiff City before playing at various clubs including Bristol Rovers, Oldham Athletic, Shrewsbury, and currently he is with newly promoted championship side, the playoff hero himself, Mr. Joe Jacobson. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thanks. Very well. I prefer Cam's introduction.
Yeah, well, to be honest, though, it's more than...
Andy, you got no sound, love.
a lovely introduction, and yeah, the Millennium Stadium is always a winner, especially with Welsh players and ex-teammates. You know.
That's it, mate. This is.
I was there. I was there in the crowd that day. I have to say that.
Good day, mate.
Yeah.
Good day. See, we've got something in common, haven't we? Got something in common.
Yeah, I was there as well.
Something in common.
I was there.
Both got a winning goal in the playoff final. We can talk about that later, though, can't we? We can reminisce.
Yes, I scored a winning. I missed a penalty in a playoff final. If that's in a penalty shootout for Highbridge. It was like my first game I'd ever played for him, and it was a penalty shootout to go through to the. I think it was the playoff final. It was the semi final, and they gave me the ball. I had to take the 5th penalty, and I missed it.
I'll tell you what. One part of tonight I'm not looking forward to is obviously Joe's speciality is his set pieces and certainly his penalties. Obviously, scoring a penalty in a major game, and my penalty history is not great. Is not great. I think shocking's probably I'd take shocking, to be honest. I'd take shocking's good. Shocking's good.
So there you go. You've led me in nicely there. So before we go into the Magnificent Seven and on with the show, I want our guest to talk us through what, in my opinion, could be the greatest hat-trick of all time. So I'm going to play this clip, and then afterwards, Joe, you can talk us through each goal. Unfortunately, because of the way I've set it up, you can't do it while it's playing. But it's only a quick clip, so I'm going to put it on, and then you can talk us through it. I had to turn that off quickly just because I don't want to get the stream pulled down either. So, yeah, talk us through them, mate, because that was, you don't get many hat-tricks as spectacular as that.
No. The first one, free kick, just, always nice to get an opportunity to kind of take them. Then the corners, we worked quite hard on them with the assistant manager we got. It goes into a lot of detail with all the set pieces and stuff. And I remember that game, he just said kind of put it on top of the keeper and see what happens, get bodies around it. There was a little nick on the line, but for me, it's still going in and definitely claimed it. And then the last got, and while that was happening, I'd never scored a brace before. I was like, have I got it? Have I not got it? And when we got the third goal, the corner, I remember all the fans screaming behind the goal to shoot and shoot and shoot. And it just, again, I just put it on top of the keeper, and you may have taken a couple of steps forward to cut the near post one out, and it flew in, and it was a nice moment. I wouldn't say I'm aiming in the corner or anything like that, but I was definitely trying to put it on top of the goalkeeper. And I scored a couple of corners the season before, so it's something that I've got a bit lucky with really over the years. The second one, the third one, the final goal, but the second corner was just absolutely it's just unbelievable. The way that, the pace and the power and the whip you got on it, that I think, especially after the first one, for me at half time, surely the
keeper's
opposition
got to make a change, haven't he?
Probably not the goalkeeper. For me, I'm starting to talk about putting people on posts and things, because to give your keeper a little bit of backing, you had no support behind him when the ball went over his head. So I'm not blaming the goalkeeper, by the way, because I think it's an unbelievable set piece, and the way that he gets pace, power, and whip on it is phenomenal.
Superb. There's no doubt it's superb. But as a father of a goalkeeper, mate, if my boy got done once, I'd be like, all right, it happens. If he got done twice in the same game, I'd be like, mate, come on, can't be having that.
I remember doing a podcast quite soon after it, and they had Rob Green on, and they were asking him, and he was like, I've never been beaten from a corner in my career. So I don't think it's one. I think it's one of those things that goalkeepers are like, that's never going to happen to me. They can't let that happen to me. And
no, he's never been beaten. He's never been beaten by a corner, but he let in a stinking goal in the World Cup. That's all right.
I know. I was going to say, didn't he send England crashing out of the World Cup? So
sorry, Rob. Said it. I didn't say that. I didn't.
Sorry, Rob. That was Joe. You set me up there. That was too easy.
Yeah. Well. Okay, so Joe, what we like to do is before we kind of get into the football and your career in bits and pieces, take some questions. The Magnificent Seven, where we give you 7 quick fire questions, and basically you've just got to answer the first thing which comes to mind. So normally get a few grenades in there, but I found it a bit difficult to find difficult questions for you compared to what some other people have got. So we'll have a look now.
We tried though. We tried.
Joe Jacobson, Magnificent Seven. Nice and easy to start as always. Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo for me.
Cardiff or Swansea?
Cardiff.
See, that's the easiest of the lot. Favourite TV show?
Ooh, I would say Suits.
Oh, nice. Something different than we've always had.
Every week
Every week,
something
isn't it?
different. Angriest teammate?
He left last year, but Adam Alad for me.
Best roommate?
I room on my own. I had a bad roommate at the start of Wycombe, so after that, I asked him to stay on my own, and I've done it ever since.
So,
he knows who he is as well.
there you go. Bellamy or Ramsey?
Ramsey.
And to finish, the greatest Welshman who ever lived?
It's a great question. Question.
Yeah, I was trying to.
Doesn't have to be football related. It can just be.
I'm going John Charles.
It's a good shout. Good shout.
Nice.
There you go. Magnificent Seven. Yeah. I'd love to hear more about that roommate, but I don't want to put you on the spot. just in case he's still at Wycombe. So
no, he's gone now. It's all right.
Or he's watching right now.
Yeah.
He still knows. I told him plenty of times.
Straight away, and early request. So these normally come at the end of the show, so you can get that in.
Don't mind. There you go, Ryan.
There you go. Okay, so what we like to do as well then is before we go into you, Joe, we talk some stories from the football world, and oh boy, is there some stories going around. Where do you want to start, Andy?
I'd like to start with the Charity Shield. I don't want to obviously spend too much time on it. Obviously, I know it's only.
We can spend as long as you want, mate. Do you want to talk about the predictions?
Oh, we talk about predictions, yeah, and we can also talk about Liverpool getting beat, which is obviously another bonus for you.
It's like a double header.
The biggest issue I've got was my prediction, mate. Well, the biggest issue I've got with the game is what happened in the penalties, and I'd love to hear Joe's take on it. But you know what I mean. Obviously, I don't know if you've seen the game, Joe. That obviously it was a tight game. There was nothing in it, and then Jurgen Klopp, which I'm not slagging off, by the way, he's an excellent manager, excellent coach, and obviously wanted to do this for a reason. But to bring on a player just to take a penalty, I think is a little bit too much pressure to put on any kind of player, and especially a young player in that kind of situation. And I know there was no fans at Wembley, and obviously you've took a penalty there in the same circumstance in a much higher pressure situation. But do you think it was right? And what will he be feeling? Obviously, I know you didn't miss, but or what will he have felt before he was stepping up to take that penalty?
First of all, I don't mind players getting brought on like that. I think the managers sometimes will turn around and say, "Does anyone really want one?" It's happy. Who did it before? Was it the Dutch one with Tim Krul when they brought him on as a goalie?
For the Euros, yeah. So it happened in goalkeepers, and obviously, I think it's everyone to their own, innit? You know, for that. But
I think.
It's a difficult one for me because obviously he's had a very good season on loan at Swansea. I thought he's had a really good season, to be fair to him. He's, he's scored
probably
penalties,
their best player,
kicks. Yeah, he's done really well, and you know what I mean. I don't want this to be a tarnish on his start of the season, or put him down before the season starts, because he's a very good player with loads of potential. But I felt a bit sorry for him, really.
Yeah, look, as well, I think they could have easily maybe given him the first penalty just to kind of get that away, because if you're taking the fifth one, there's whatever happens, there's pressure on that penalty. He must be a confident lad to want to take the fifth penalty as well, if you know what I mean. And also the way he took it was kind of like a confident way of taking a penalty for me. So I think it's just one of those things that unfortunately it didn't work out, and because of the situation of how young he is and coming into the first team for the first time and things like that there's more kind of scope on it. And look, there is pressure in football, and from now on in his career, there's going to be crowds, there's going to be big occasions for him. He seems like a very good player, so these things might come around again, but it's one of those things he's going to have to learn from it and kind of get it behind him as soon as possible.
Do you think, Joe, he would have took the penalty if there was a crowd there? Do you think it would have been any different? Do you think Jurgen Klopp would have acted differently?
I don't know. possibly not, just because of would Klopp want to give him that pressure to kind of know that if he missed, then there is going to be a little bit of a fall from grace for it. But for me, if he didn't want to take that penalty, he wouldn't have taken it. He wouldn't have put his hand up. So I think he's confident enough to kind of put his hand up and put himself in that situation. You've got to kind of take what comes with it.
Yeah, I do. I hope it happens against us. Sorry to cut you out there. I hope he gets an opportunity to take a penalty with the crowd there, and I hope he puts it to bed very quickly, because sometimes these moments, especially for younger players, they can tarnish, confidence wise. And I don't know what Liverpool's plans are with him. Are they going to play him this season? Because they put him in the Charity Shield. Is he going to be in the squad? Is he going to go back out on loan? You know what I mean? For me, Joe's just said there he's a confident young lad. You know what I mean? He went up confident. And for me, I just hope it works out for him, because, you know what I mean, he's a very good footballer, and I want to see the best young footballers progressing as far as they can, and he's in that mould, really.
But then I think there's a couple of aspects to it as well. Like, firstly, does the Charity Shield really matter? Probably not. It's a glorified friendly, really. I know it's at Wembley, blah, blah, blah. But equally, it could have been twofold, couldn't it? It could be that Rhian Brewster is extremely good at penalties, and it was a tactical decision. It could have been that, I think Gaz just said in the chat, was it a test? Did he want to see how he reacted under pressure? Could have been that. But then equally, the other side of it is, I don't know, like, a massive, it's not a massive thing. I do think if there's crowd there, there's more pressure, obviously, but I don't know. Charity Shield, to me, when I was younger, and this kind of harps back to the FA Cup and as well, which we've talked about, a lot recently, and how it's fallen from grace. Like, to me, when I was younger, like a kid, I felt like the Charity Shield was like something which clubs wanted to win, because it was the start of the season. They wanted to get off to a good start. They wanted to win something. Whereas now, I do feel like it is just a glorified friendly. It's no different to winning like the Emirates Cup and all these different pre-season trophies. And I'd be interested to see, to hear what Joe thinks as a current footballer. Like, is it the same as those other pre-season tournaments, or is there something different about the Charity Shield, do you reckon?
I think, do you know what? Looking at the team lineups this season for it, I think they put out their pretty much the strongest teams, both of them, which shows that they did care about it. But over the years, I do think it's been used as to bed players in. Sometimes players aren't back from internationals and things like that, and it dampens it a little bit. It'd be interesting if that was the Champions League final and they wanted to bring a player on. Would he have put himself forward? Would Klopp have put the trust in him to do it that way? Yeah. So, for me, subconsciously, I don't think the players and the manager probably take it as seriously as everything else. But then again, it's silverware. It's something that you want to get that winning mentality as early as possible into the season, and it's an opportunity to kind of, get back into that mentality. And for Liverpool, they kind of missed that opportunity.
I think if you speak to certain players, if you speak to Roy Keane says it as it is, and says it's a huge game. That's his first game of the season, regardless of it being a friendly game. I think Joe's just mentioned it there, that teams have used it as a stepping stone towards a season, if that's fitness exercise and bringing people off and too many substitutions. It's not classed as a normal game, as in you can make more substitutions and it's a little bit more laid back. But I think this year, with obviously no crowd, it's obviously going to be very different. But I'm going back years ago when Man United used to be in it every single season. They put their stronger side out. That was their first bit of silverware. And every time you see silverware, as in Ryan Giggs has won a trophy, it's on his list of silverware. So he's won the Charity Shield something like 5, 6, 7 times, or whatever it is. And you know what I mean? It becomes a big thing for players who've won that many titles. And for me, it could be a big thing. But the FA Cup, the FA's got to get things right. You know what I mean? And that's get everything right. It's not just the Premier League winners take everything and everything else is filtered down. You know what I mean? That becomes an important trophy for the FA Cup winners and the Premier League winners, because it shouldn't deflect from everything. It shouldn't be classed as a friendly game. But unfortunately, this year it was, because of the gap between now and the season starting.
Do you know what they could do to make people? Make the Charity Shield more important, is that if the winners of the Charity Shield get, I don't know, a bye from the FA Cup third round or something, just some sort of, you can't give a European place because everything's already, drawn and ready to go. But I just feel like it's just a nothing game. But then that's coming from Simon from Cardiff. Jose Mourinho counts it as he won 3 trophies in that season, didn't he? So, it is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
You mentioned the FA there, and the kind of the top teams, which kind of takes me into something which I wanted to sort of briefly touch on. So we've seen the top 4 or so clubs in the Premier League spending a bit of cash, and looks like they're going to be spending a bit more. But outside of PSG, nobody else is in a position to spend anywhere near that. Even the Real Madrids of the world. Obviously, Barcelona will be able to if loads of people have put that Messi's buyout clause is like 650 million or something. But you've got I think Man City spent £40 million on the
Bargain.
Ake, wasn't it? 40 quid for Ake.
He played like he was worth 40 quid some weeks last season.
Wasn't I 40 million pound, mate, for that? I don't know.
You're buying English talent, and unfortunately English talents cost money, doesn't it?
That's why they look elsewhere, isn't it?
You know what I mean? And I can't fault English teams looking abroad and going to buy players, because I look at Chelsea. Chelsea have spent an absolute fortune, and part of me is excited by it. Part of me is really excited by the players they bought. You know what I mean? Werner, really excited to see him. Thiago Silva, didn't see that one coming whatsoever.
Kai Havertz,
from Bayer Leverkusen. Listen, they bought some really, really good players, but what comes with that is pressure. And Frank now, for the first season in his managerial career, is under absolute severe pressure to achieve something. He's got to achieve something. I don't know what that is.
If he doesn't finish top 2, mate, I think he's failed because of the amount of money he's spent and the players, the standard of players.
Unless he wins something. That's the only thing what could save him.
But if they finish 4th or 5th and win the FA Cup, is that enough when you've spent that much money and you've got Thiago Silva in your side and some of the best talent in Europe?
Going on his chairman, going on his owner, Mr. Abramovich, on his past record, I don't think he cares who he has managers. So you know what I mean. Listen, he could win 2 trophies, finish 4th, and get the sack. He just can't work it out nowadays.
Sorry, mate. Going back to Ake, mate. I think the reason City have gone for an English defender specifically is because they've had their fingers burnt on the foreign young defenders. They've bought a couple of young central defenders from around Europe, spent big, and I think they've had their fingers burnt. So I think they've gone for an English defender, thinking that he knows the league. There's a good chance that he's going to settle well, etc.
Yeah.
And I do think that's the reason, because I don't think any of the other top 6 teams, say, would have paid that for him. And that's not to say, potentially he could be amazing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's terrible, but I'm saying I'm not sure I would have paid 40 quid for him.
Listen, he's had an amazing. I don't know how much you guys have seen him. I watched him when he came through Chelsea's ranks, and he went on loan. He's had a couple of loan moves, and he's done really well. I just think it's a lot of money to spend on a player who's been relegated, because in the grand scheme of things, does that make Jack Grealish worth £120 million because he kept Villa in the Premier League? It just money's absolutely crazy, and if that's how people value people, you know what I mean. The biggest winners are Bournemouth, because Bournemouth have gained so much money, which I don't know if they're going to be able to spend in the Championship. If they are able to spend a high percentage of that money they brought in, they're going to be a force this season in the Championship, because they've recouped. I think it was £28 million for the goalkeeper. Ake for 40 million quid. They're obviously going to sell other players.
They're going to need to if they're going to sign Messi, mate.
Well, exactly. So I think it's a big one. It's a big one, So let's see. See what happens.
My point was obviously you've got all these teams like United have signed or on the brink of signing Van de Beek for 40 million. Now I think 40 million for him is a bit of a bargain, because he is potentially got the potential to be one of the best best midfielders in Europe. So their midfield looks insane. They'll probably sign a couple more players, because I do believe they need a few if they want to challenge. Whereas because of kind of lockdown and everything which has happened and clubs losing money, I think outside that top 6 in the Premier League, not many clubs have got the funds to spend that much money. Does that make the Premier League a little bit of a farce in terms of a competition? Because if you've only got a handful of teams who can really go and strengthen to a different degree to everyone else, it kind of like creates an even bigger gap. Do you think that's problematic, mate? And it's not just in the Premier League, by the way, because I don't think Madrid have got any money to spend at the moment because of the same reasons. But we've talked about integrity of competition and stuff. I'm not sure what you could do to even it out, but I think it does cause an issue, mate.
Joe, do you see that, Joe, when you play against Premier League sides in various cup competitions? Obviously, now you're gonna play this season against ex-Premier League side who've still got the Premier League side, Premier League money involved. Do you see the gulf when you play against these kind of players in competitions?
Do you know what we've played against in the last, say, 4 or 5 years? We played Spurs and we played Villa. Spurs probably changed 11 players, and do you know what? They ended up beating us in the last minute, 4-3. We were 3-2 up with 5 minutes to go, and they won 4-3. And the Villa game, we took them to a replay, and they probably kept their strongest team out, but they were going through a bad spell at the time, the year they got relegated. But again, I was saying before, we played Villa on Saturday at their training ground, the pre-season game. I know it's pre-season, but they changed their whole first team at half-time, bringing on players who are still worth 10, 15, 20 million. And the gap, I think, is huge at the minute. And I think they're talking about spending a lot of money as well. And it's really tough because there's a lot of complaints in the Football League about having a salary cap, to making it a bit more even and a bit less of a gulf between the top and the bottom teams. And people are complaining about that. So it's whichever way you kind of see it going. But for me, the Premier League, because there's still 5 or 6 teams who can go and spend, I still think it stays interesting. And I think that gap's been there for a while now, and I can only see that gap getting bigger and bigger and bigger just from the power that those clubs have got.
Joe, you mentioned sorry, Joe just mentioned there about the salary cap. So you mentioned the salary cap. Obviously, the salary cap's been brought in for League One and League Two. Obviously, you've just left League One. As a club, are the players relieved to be moving out of League One, for example, so they can be able to push forward their careers, see bigger and better players come in? Because obviously you look at the salary cap in League One, for example, League Two, that it's going to be a difficult one to attract players because every single club can offer the same kind of money. So it's a difficult situation. Whereas, no disrespect to certain areas, that if you want to sign for a certain club, you're going to pick an area over another area for living in. So it's going to be a tough one for certain clubs to carry this on.
Yeah, and also if you've got teams like Sunderland who get 30,000 every week, having the same budget as, no disrespect to Accrington, who get 2,000 every week, then I don't see how that's kind of fair that Sunderland can bring in X amount of millions per year and more than Accrington will, but they can only spend the same amount on players. I don't think that's kind of fair. I get the situation that we're in around in the country at the minute and things like that, and probably something that had to be done, but not necessarily having a cap. Maybe just a percentage of it would have been better. I know there's FFP and things like that, but teams seem to be getting away with.
I don't think that is.
Yeah, teams seem to be making up their own rules with that, and you've seen in the press recently with teams kind of going against the rules with that and not getting punished as well as they probably should have been. So it's difficult. Like you said, I spoke to an agent in the summer, like a friend of mine, and he said it's just going to become probably like a London v Manchester kind of league where, like you said, players are going to want to live where their families are, where they want to be based, and that's how the league's going to be set up.
Well, I said the same thing last week's show, didn't I, Si? That no disrespect to where I live in the northeast, that Middlesbrough have been really fortunate over the last 25 years that they've been able to rely on the chairman who's been able to splash loads of cash at players, and they've been able to come and play the football. When you haven't got that money, or someone else can offer exactly the same money as you can, people don't want to come and live in the area because of ICI or pollution or certain things which get a bad press, and I just find it is a little bit disrespectful. Like you just said there, Joe, that people are going to want to go and sign for the London clubs. So in 5 years' time, for example, Barnet get out of the conference, they're going to be laughing because they're based in a good place. They've got a decent brand new ground, and they're going to be able to spend the same money as Sunderland FC are at the minute. And unless a team like Sunderland can get out of that and hope that they don't put a cap in the Championship the season they get in it, that they're always going to be fighting a losing battle, because it's going to be so difficult for a team to achieve greatness and getting the Premier League where they need to be without risking and splashing that kind of money. Because let's say next season side that they put in a salary cap in the Championship, because they're on about FIFA fair play rules and wage rules. Derby got round it this year by getting Wayne Rooney in, by paying him via a different company, by
company, wasn't it?
By a betting company, yeah. And let's say it happened this year, then Bournemouth, a team like Bournemouth, you know what I mean, going back on them, they'd be screwed because they're getting all this money in and they won't be able to spend it out on players. Then they've got to be, you know what I mean? So they're going to have all this money floating around in the bank. It's just a waste because they're losing assets and they can't get the assets back in because from where Bournemouth is, yes, it's a lovely place to live, but it's miles away, so people can't uproot their families, for example, and move halfway around the country to go and play football. So I do feel really sorry for certain teams, and I do hope common sense prevails and it doesn't ruin it. Because for me, if they're going to do this, I'd be all for a North and a South League, and every game would be a derby. The crowds would be bigger. You know what I mean? I'd look at something different. I'd look at something different. Not in Championship, because Championship and Premier League is a different animal, but I think they do it in Jason Ainsley's league in the Conference North and South, because you know what I mean. It's but I just think this cap in League One and League Two, and I'm really happy that obviously Joe's out of it. You know,
fail to attract players that Chelsea can, because players want to come over and live in London. So they were talking at one point of moving their training ground to London and having that as their base, so that players can kind of live there as well. So they obviously have thought about it a lot. So it just shows that it's there.
Listen, every player who comes to England and goes to Manchester, if that's Man United in the past or it's Man City now, what do they complain about? They complain about the weather. They complain how cold it is. You know, I want to go to London. Well, go to London. You know, it's a short career. You know, if they come into England for the weather, then they're deluded anyway.
I live just outside London, and the weather is not that much better down here. Let me tell you.
Exactly. You know, if they're looking for weather, they go to Spain, go to Italy, go to Portugal.
Exactly.
You know, listen, there's ways and means. So
yeah.
Just reading that.
That's a good one, that, isn't it?
Shocking.
Good one, that.
Reece made a good point there. He says Rooney's a player coach, so obviously coaches' salaries aren't part of FFP. So, you know, Derby also got around it that way. But you know, I don't. People can tell me until they're blue in the face that what was the company and the betting company?
It was Red. Was it Red?
888? Oh, I can't remember.
No, Red something, wasn't it? Red 32.
It was a number.
Red 32. Red 32.
You can't tell me that Wayne Rooney,
who wears number 32,
won number 10 for his whole career, other than when he had to wear 8 at United, has just decided, I'm coach now, so I'm going to wear number 32. Coincidentally, it's rubbish.
So he's got 32 on his front, 32 on his back. You know, listen,
there you go.
Yeah.
And he's coincidentally done like a...
Wayne Rooney, come in and explain yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you any tough questions. No, it's interesting. Salary cap, I don't think it can work because, again, Reece said there, you know, if you've got a Sunderland with 30,000 fans, and like Joe said, you know, Accrington getting X amount of fans, certain clubs bring in more money, so they should be able to spend that money. Now, could you cap wages? Maybe that's a better way to go, so you're not, you know, players are not getting I think Gareth Bale's on like 600 grand a week or something ridiculous after, you know, and I don't begrudge footballers getting, you know, you get paid what the going rate is for your level. That's what it is, same as any business. But I just think at the moment, like, football's just going up and up and up in wages and transfer fees. Eventually it's gonna pop. It can't just go up exponentially, and just, there's got to be a point where we say, right, maybe we need to rein it in a bit, because, you know, soon enough there's going to be a player earning £1 million a week the way it's going, and, you know, the clubs who can't afford those exorbitant wages, they're the ones who suffer on the pitch and off the pitch. Okay, so on a much more positive note, we had some fans back in the grounds, mate, on the weekend.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was Connor's key manager. Follows on Twitter, and he put on, he was watching a game at the weekend, Chorley against somebody, and I think there was 300-400 fans there, and social distance environment, watching a game of football. And listen, if we can get fans back into the game, I know Brighton tested it as well in their friendly against Chelsea, and I'm all for it. Listen, I was lucky enough and I watched Joe's game in the playoff final and saw no fans there, and obviously I'm really interested to find out what it was like, Joe, to play in front of no fans, because obviously the last time I played in front of no fans, it was a reserve game. It was hard for me to get myself motivated, myself going, and I felt really sorry for professional footballers, because it's such a such a difficult situation to find yourself in, especially when there's an outcome at the end of it what needs to be dealt with and sorted, and there's points to play for. It must be so difficult. What was it like?
Do you know what? Because it was only we came back for the playoffs, so we kind of knew, right, there's going to be no fans here, and we had such a big carrot, I think, for us to kind of get to Wembley and then get promoted, that the fans thing kind of took a bit of a back seat for us, and we were just so adamant about just preparing right for the game. And because we played at Fleetwood and it's a small stadium, we actually took all our squad up there. We had some directors, and we said to them before the game, like, you got to be our fans today. And it was really interesting. We could hear everything. Every time we tackled someone, cleared the ball, had a shot, all our subs, who were dotted at the side, all our directors were clapping and cheering, and it kind of felt like we had a bit of crowd there. And it was the same at Wembley when we had a few of the boys who weren't in the squad up, on the second tier or whatever it was, and you could hear them, praising us. But at Wembley, it's such a huge stadium, and you walk out and it's weird. You don't stand in the tunnel next to the players. You walk out and you're kind of like, you look at the stadium, you're like, oh, this is like a bit weird, like having no fans and stuff. But then as soon as the game goes, you don't realise that there's no one there. You just focus so much on just the pitch and the players, and it's only when there's a break in play and you have a look around, like 80,000 empty seats, in the stadium, and it's a little bit strange. But while you're playing, I think it was all right. I didn't mind it too much. I know what you're saying about a resi game, and I played in them where it's hard. It's horrible. You don't want to be there, and you don't want to be playing. You feel like you're not part of the first team. But because we had such a huge carrot at the end of it, that we were desperate to kind of win, we were so focused on that everything else kind of didn't really matter.
Yeah, no, good. And I think it must be. It must have been probably the reason what I'm saying there is probably the Liverpool lads when they won the league and the last couple of games, and I'll use the Man City game as an example where I'm not saying that they didn't try, because Man City just blew them away on the night, but you know what I mean, it must be hard to motivate in certain games if you're relegated like Norwich City, or you're not playing for anything and you don't want to get injured, you're out of contract. It must have been so difficult for those kind of players in the Championship and at the bottom or the middle of the Premier League where they had nothing to play for. It must be really hard for those kind of guys.
Yeah, and you see, the few players that kind of refuse to play as well, which for me that didn't sit too well with me, to be honest. But it's interesting. Yeah,
you're gonna get Andy going. You're gonna get him going. His blood pressure's going already.
Interesting, Joe. Because listen, we had the same debate. Obviously, the most high profile one, and the first one to come out was Lyle Taylor. Obviously, Lyle came out, didn't give a reason for a good 10 days before he. And for me, it didn't sit right with me at all. And I probably feel even worse now that Charlton got relegated. That if that's my team or he's my teammate, he wouldn't be a friend or a teammate ever again, because that would have been it, because I would have been absolutely mortified and disgusted with him, because that was it was a big thing for Charlton. I was a big advocate of Lee Bowyer. I thought Lee Bowyer did a fantastic job all through the season, and he's going to be in League One next season with a massive football club with a cap on wages. So while Lyle Taylor's playing in the Championship, playing with new teammates, not a care in the world, it doesn't sit right with me. So I'm glad a current player had similar reservations, except I'm allowed to wear mine.
Yeah, well.
Look, it happens all the time. Every season, there's players who are out of contract who, sort things out for themselves with 10, 15 games. You're allowed to talk to a club, so it must go on all the time. But no one ever refuses to play the last 10, 15 games or whatever. And me, if like you said, if I was in that battle and our best player turned around and said, "Look, lads, like I've got move sorted," I'd be a bit like, "Look, fair play to you, get that move sorted." But you might cost us all, all our livelihoods and money and finances and things like that. Yeah, so But that's
it's not just the players, Joe, as well, is it? It's not just the players. It's not just the players as well. You know, especially in football nowadays. You know, you've got people, you've got the fans, you've got the workers who work in the club. Someone might lose their jobs because they're now down in the league. There's overheads. There's less attendances. You're not getting the sponsorship money. Sky. You know what I mean? It's going to generate less income now because of the drop down the division and I'm not blaming Lyle. You know what I mean? They didn't go down because of him. They went down because they deserved to go down, and they weren't very good throughout a 46-game season. But he had a big part to play in that.
You say that, mate. You say that they didn't go down because of him. Like, obviously, that is fact. They over 30 odd games, they weren't good enough. However, you know, everything which they did good throughout the season came through him. He scored a lot of their goals. Joe just said he's their best player. He's their penalty taker. He's the lifeblood of their attacking side of their football.
He takes a good penalty though, side, doesn't he? Takes a good penalty.
He does.
Like his penalty.
Nerves of steel, mate.
Joe like that. Joe likes his penalty. Yeah, I like his penalty. Very, very calm and collected.
Which penalty's better, Lyle Taylor or Bruno Fernandes? Is a question for you.
Oh, I like Lyle.
I don't think either one has missed.
Of how different it is.
Yeah, I agree. However, the first one who misses, that's what it is. That's the competition, isn't it? You know, listen, Matt Le Tissier didn't take a great penalty, but he seemed to score every one apart from one, and his one was it Mark Crosley who saved his penalty? So it's you know, I think he scored 46 out of 47. So sometimes you put the keeper the wrong way. It looks like a good penalty. It might be an awful penalty. My penalty against Leeds, if Neil Sullivan had gone the wrong way, my penalty would have been an amazing penalty. I just passed it in. But unfortunately, he went the right way, and he put a cap on it.
Yeah. So let's Joe. Before we move on to your career, we're going to take a couple of questions from the live chat now. But I've got a question for the live chat first. Someone has left an angry face emoji on Facebook. I'd like to know what we've said which has made someone so angry. Because I don't think we've talked about anything particularly controversial. So
maybe it's Lyle Taylor.
Yeah, that could be the only thing. Could be Lyle Taylor, or it could be my wife. Either.
Have I missed that one, Si? Have I missed that one?
Yeah, it's just a Facebook. You know when you can like drop a like or whatever, and you can drop like a love or whatever. It's your face. It's my friend. My wife just said it's just my face. Thanks. Okay, so
confidence builder.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's always building my self-esteem. That's what it is. James Costley says, being from Cardiff and being in the youth team, did you grow up supporting the best team in not only in Wales but the world?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I used to go from as early as I can remember. I used to go with my dad and my brother. You'd sit on the bob bank. My dad got a season ticket while I was in youth team, and I kind of used to sneak round and sit with him. And I was there for the Leeds game in the FA Cup. Obviously, when Cam scored a winner at Millennium. Went to a few away games. I was there all the time at Ninian Park.
Love it.
Good man. What do you miss? What was your favourite moment at Ninian Park, Joe, either watching or as a player?
The Leeds game, the FA Cup game, was the best game. I was standing on the bob bank and just little things like when Alan Smith got sent off the elbow Andy leg, when Cav scored the free kick. And then for Youngie to score the winner, obviously homegrown lad and things like that. It was, it was a bit Popper went off that day, and it was.
I think
the OG one club man, by the way.
Yeah. But it makes it more special, doesn't it? You know that when you know somebody and you know somebody cares so much as a Youngie or a leggy, you know that. And you when you know that it means so much to them to score the winning goal, you know you see the elation in Youngie's face when he scored that goal against Leeds, the celebration. It was just something what will always be etched in the history, and I'm glad it's someone like him because he's just the nicest fellow in the world as well.
Indeed. Yeah. Rai asks, what was it like to play at Home Park?
Down in Plymouth.
Yeah.
It was it was always quite a hostile atmosphere. We've got a bit of a little rivalry with Plymouth somehow. I think we played a game against them a few years ago, and our goalie went down injured after 5 minutes, and the only reserve goalkeeper we had was our 45-year-old goalie coach on the bench. And he came on, and we scored a goal early on and tried to just defend and take our time with everything, and they hated us. And it was one of those games where it was just like everything just went our way, and we ended up winning the game 1-0, and yeah, we got a lot of stick. But we also played them in the playoffs in my first year at Wycombe, and beat them in the playoffs. So I think there's always been a little bit of needle. Their managers come out, or their old manager, Derek Adams, came out and said a few things about us and refused to shake the gaffer's hand after one of the games. And there's just always a bit of needle. But it's like I said, I really like playing there. The stadium's great. The pitch was always nice, big pitch, and we always had good games there. And I like to think at Wycombe we always won, or may have drawn one game there, but we always did really well there.
Cool. And James Trask asks, what's been the lowest point of your career so far, and how did you overcome it?
When I signed for Oldham, I got a bad injury in the pre-season, and it was one of those. I had a problem with my groin, but never really kind of got sorted out or fixed properly. It wasn't diagnosed properly, and I was, traveling all around the country getting injections and scans, and no one could kind of get the right answer for me. So, I was probably unfit for 18 months, probably may have played 10, 15 games in the middle, but I was in a lot of pain, off the pitch. I'd be at home, little things like putting my shoes and socks on in the morning. I was in agony, and it was just, and then I got told, a year into that I needed to find a new club, that, I wasn't going to be involved, and had to train with a little group of 5 of us. And it was just, bad time. And it was really difficult. And it was only when I kind of left and went on loan and started playing football again that I kind of, felt good about myself. And if you ask my missus, she'll probably say that was the worst and angriest I've been off the pitch, in the whole time we've been together as well. So it kind of comes hand in hand.
How'd you get yourself through that, Joe? You know what I mean? Because like you personally, because I've been in that situation when I was at Middlesbrough. I was in the bomb squad, so to speak. So we had 10 players, which we trained on our own. We didn't have a coach, and then obviously lads dwindled down. So somebody leaves, go and sign for someone else. So you get 9, 8, 7, and then in the end, before I left, there was 3 of us. 3 of us left. It was so disheartening. But you just had to keep professional, keep doing it right, knowing that hopefully something would turn up for you. But then at the same time, you were leaving a couple of your mates behind, like in the trenches. So you felt a little bit guilty at the same time.
Yeah, it's weird, and you kind of create your own little club type thing. It's a bit strange, and you all kind of look out. We had like you said, we were in the bomb squad. We were training. 6 of us, I think it was, got told at the start of the season. New manager came in. And it was their decision. I respected it. I was coming back from the injury as well, so I kind of that was my sole purpose, right? Try and get back fit. I ended up actually doing quite well. We got told, none of us are going to be back involved. None of us are going to train with the first team. I actually did well in the reserve team games and got back into the first team squad, played a game, and then I should have been playing. I'm not, being big-headed, but I should have been playing. I told the manager, and he was like, I want to play you, but I've been told I can't play you. You've got to leave. Yeah. I'd go to speak to the chairman. The chairman would say, no, it's nothing to do with. So no one was really giving me the answers, and it was, I just had to get out in the end. And thankfully, Accrington, I went on loan there a few years earlier, and the manager was still there, took me in and kind of gave me that new lease of life of playing again, which I can't thank them enough.
I think it's difficult though, isn't it? 'Cause I think people who don't know that goes on behind closed doors, and all of a sudden as a player, all you want to do is play, all you want to do is feel part of it, that you turn up every day for training, wanting to play with the group, wanting to train with the lads, wanting to play in the first team or fight for your place in the first team. When you're told that you're not allowed, I think that sometimes rubs you up a little bit the wrong way, and it leaves you a little bit bitter, leaves you a little bit disappointed. But at the same time, you want to do things right, because you want to keep yourself right, because there's more clubs, 92 other clubs, 91 other clubs that you can go to potentially, and I think being in that position yourself gives you an opportunity to speak to younger players if that ever happens to them, and I think it's a good way of showcasing your talent as well, because it shows how professional you can be as well.
Yeah, it's hard. It's because that however well you do, you're not going to be selected on the weekend, and there's nothing worse than getting up on a Saturday, having the weekend off, and just seeing all the results come in, and you're not part of it. It doesn't affect you what goes on for your own team. It wasn't nice, and I actually at the time was living with the captain. I think he was at the time, one of my best mates, and it was hard for him as well, because he was, playing every week, being the captain, being involved. and he'd come home and see me and see how I was being treated, and it was hard for him to have that both ways. But you've got, like you said, you've got to kind of just do it for yourself. You just got to be really selfish and just think, like, take a step back and think, how am I going to get through this? And you've got to just be professional, train well, and hope that you can get a club. And out of those 6 players, I think I was the only one there was one other who kind of had a career for the next few years. The rest kind of drifted out, and maybe because they didn't do similar things to what I did.
I think you've got to be driven as well, though, because like you say, you know what I mean, that can also be on the other side of the coin that you mentioned there, the captain. If that's you, though, you're in the first team and you see some of the younger players or some of the other players who are not in the first team or the manager's plans, you can't feel sorry for them because they're there to take your place as well, or someone else can take your place, and you can be quickly in their position as well. And in football, what I learned very quickly is dog eat dog, and you know that there's always somebody there who wants to take your place. There's always somebody there who can or will take your place if you're not bang on your game all of the time, day in, day out, week in, week out, game in, game out. And it's it can be the best job in the world, but at the same time, it can be such a mentally draining, tiring scenario as well.
Sorry, Gaz has just asked a question which kind of follows into what we were just talking about there. He said, what sort of support would Oldham, the FA, or football generally give to players when their mental health is perhaps suffering or they're feeling a bit low? Is there support there for players, mate? Or do you kind of have to deal with it yourself or with your friends or your teammates or your family or whatever?
I think there is now. Going back, 10 years when I was there was no one came to me and said, you know what, if you're having any problems, speak to this person. And probably looking back, you know, I wasn't in the best place mentally, looking back at it of how I was and things like that. But there wasn't anyone. I think the football club 9 times out of 10 in the past would have just, all they cared about is who's going to play for me on a Saturday. You're the ones that are most important. Everyone else, I don't need you this week. I might have to pick you next week if someone gets injured, but for now, I don't really care about you. And it is tough, but now the PFA are trying to do a lot more. The FA are trying to do a lot more, and I can only speak for our club. And you know, there's a psychologist that comes in once a week that some of the players are allowed to speak to. There's, you know, we have physiotherapists to look after our body, you know, on hand 24/7, and doctors. Yet we don't have anyone there full time who kind of looks after your brain and your mind, and which is just as important. So I think that's coming into the game a lot more now, and it definitely needs to. And yeah, it's hard. You see a lot of players now coming out saying how much they suffered over the years, and they weren't really saying anything because there was a stigma around it. And I think a lot of the time as well, players don't want to say that they're, you know, depressed or have got some issues going on because managers may not want to pick them or may, you know, treat them differently, and that's not what the players want.
Well, Joe just mentioned it there, Si, you know, that there wasn't the people to go and speak to, you know, like numbers wise that Joe said there. We probably had manager, assistant manager, captain, and out of those 3, you probably don't want to go and tell either or, because the chances were it would get back to the manager, and Joe just said they wouldn't pick you, and you can't afford that to happen. So you keep it to yourself. Things get worse, and then all of a sudden you've got yourself in a situation which is spiraling out of control, and there's no going back. You know that. I think the PFA weren't aware and weren't involved. Thankfully now they are aware of mental health issues. I still think they can do more for players who get released, because obviously the transition period between playing and not playing is just ridiculous. It's massive. It's too big. In terms of gulf wise, and you know, I mean, from being there myself, you know that 1 minute you're a footballer, the next you're not. It's a difficult thing to take, and if you're not ready for it as well, and you're not at an age or mentally grown up enough or mature enough, I'm guessing it can be even harder as well. And if you've had a bad experience beforehand at a club where you haven't been treated great, then you know what I mean. I'm guessing it can be even worse as well. And you know what I mean. We've seen some horror stories, and we've seen players, ex-players, teammates, friends of ours who've unfortunately lost their lives because of certain things and certain issues. And listen, it can't keep happening because it's just not fair. It's not fair on families. It's not fair on people who know them. It's not fair on football in general and the football family. So for me, if people, and there's a process that people can go and talk to, then I'm all for it. If that's ex-players getting involved, then let's do it, and let's do it quickly, because it shouldn't be happening as much as it is.
Spot on, mate.
No,
Spot
you're right.
on.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, last couple of questions, just from the two quick ones from the live chat, and then I'll come back to them towards the end of the show, guys, because there's a few questions. Mr. Stuart Campbell, daddy of a legend, said,
my old man, legend.
A few weeks ago, he asked us how much Messi would cost if he left. Turns out his contract has a buyout clause of over 600 million. Do you think he will go?
Why would anyone pay £600 million for a player who's got 1 year left on his contract? I just can't see it happening. I'd love to see him in the Premier League. I'd love to watch him live.
He's
I'd love to see
33 as well, by the way.
I know. Well, and there's that on top of it. You know, that even if he played till he's 40, as a business decision, that's £100 million for every year he's going to play again. And I just can't see. I can't see any chairman going to push the boat out and spend that kind of money. If he's a free transfer, that's a different kettle of fish, because people will pay the wages.
Paris and Man City, like, knowing their owners are all about like the big signings and they want the Champions League, would they push the boat out? I'm not saying they'll pay 600 million, but would they potentially offer like 200 million or 250 and say, there you go, cash, you can have that now if you sell him to us for that. Barca might take it in the current climate.
Do you think if someone did offer £200 million, they'd sell him?
I think if he leaves now in this kind of state, then I think that club, and what it's like with the president of the club and things like that, I think there'd just be uproar. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep him. I think he'll end up staying. I think a similar thing happened with Rooney a few years ago when he was saying he wanted to go to Man City or whatever it was, and Man City were going to offer him, and he ended up signing a new massive contract and whatever. I don't know whether he's doing it for that reason.
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily about leaving him though, Joe, was it? It was about making a point that they wasn't happy with how things were going in terms of bringing players in and maybe the way the squad is. And I think I agree with you. I think maybe Messi is trying to make that a similar point.
I don't think he's doing it for money though, Si. I think he's doing it. I think he's doing it for the president. I think because I'm sure there's an election coming up in a year's time.
There is,
and I think he's doing it in terms of there's an election coming up. Listen, I think, and watch this space. Messi could be the first player president ever to wear a football shirt. I'm telling you, watch his space. Watch his space.
Could be. Yeah, I think he can do whatever he wants there.
Yeah, exactly, and I agree. It's going to do something so stupid, isn't it? Well, he's got that anyway, hasn't he? He's got that anyway.
Unless he goes to Madrid, they might not like him so much then. Oof. Okay, last question then, and we'll move on to you, Joe. James Costley asks, will you celebrate if you score against Cardiff City?
What a question that is.
Yeah, and put you on the spot.
No, I think I will. I don't have the most outrageous celebrations anyway. But
you beat me to it. You beat me to it. Yeah, you beat me to that. Even his hat-trick celebration, he doesn't have an outrageous celebration. Just runs about.
Yeah. Gotta say,
I'm not one of the big. I'll have a little knee slide in a big game or something like that. But no, I think I will. Like I'm playing for my team and my club, and I want to win. Do you know what I mean? And if my team wins, I want to celebrate. Yeah, of course. It's against Cardiff, and that was the first game I looked out for when the fixtures came out, and thankfully the away game is in March, so hopefully the fans and things will come back. But I think, I think I don't mind players celebrating against their old teams. Look, they're at a new team. They should want to play for that new team that they've got and celebrate that. So I'm still I'm still a Cardiff fan and things like that, but it'd be nice as well with all my family and friends who are still Cardiff fans go to games to kind of get one over on them as well.
Mm-hmm. Is it disrespectful though, Joe, for players not to celebrate because you're playing for a team who's paying your wages, and there's been a lot of players who haven't celebrated, but like you just said there that you're playing for your team. You know what I mean? Yes, you're a Cardiff fan, but you're playing for your team.
Yeah, is it disrespectful? I don't think it's disrespectful, but I don't. If you want to celebrate. I don't think fans are going to come out and say, he used to be one of ours. We don't like him anymore because he celebrated a goal against us. I don't think that would happen. I scored against Shrewsbury, my old team, who had a great rapport with the fans. Had 3 good years there, and I celebrated. I didn't even think about not celebrating. I just ran off when I scored.
Yeah. And I think that's just
so. I think there's too many people I think are thinking before the game, if I score, I'm not celebrating that. I don't think you should have that mentality going into the game itself.
No, I totally agree. I think a certain club pays your wages. You deserve to celebrate, and for me, I'd see it as disrespectful towards your fans who, if you're not celebrating, because they pay good money to see you wear your badge, and I'm all for celebration. You know what I mean? Every goal can be your last goal, and you want to celebrate your last goal. If that's your last goal in your career and you didn't celebrate it, I'd be a little bit disappointed with it.
Joe, will you do the Ayatollah when you score against Swansea?
I've thought about.
I don't understand what's funny about that question.
Oh, who was it? Was it Jermaine Easter? Did it? Was he?
Yeah, Jermaine did it. Yeah, Jermaine did it.
Yeah, and I don't think he managed to escape the stadium too easily. But it depends. If I'm getting stick off crowd, I don't know whether they'll know that I'm ex-Cardiff or anything like that. But if I'm getting stick, then why can't I give a little bit back? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. And the thing is, football's fun. Are supposed to be fun. It's like a pantomime, isn't it? You know what I mean? And if you're not allowed to give something back in the right way, it's not like you're jumping in the crowd, are you? Or throwing something in the crowd. You're doing something for me, which is exactly a gesture back. Because if fans are able to give you pelters, that's mental abuse, verbal abuse, then surely you're allowed to give something back.
Yeah, and the game against Swansea is on TV in about 3 weeks' time, so that'd be even more interesting
bonus.
Having that. Then,
Excellent.
We'll be all over it. We'll do a special. Make sure you enjoy, please.
Oh, I know, yeah, need
please.
To.
Absolutely. Okay, let's touch on your career a bit then, Joe.
I'm just changing my my headphones a sec.
Okay.
Right, mate.
Right. So Andy, there was a question actually which I was going to ask you, but I can't find it now. It's gone. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the season start. It's come very quickly, Andy, haven't it? You know, we'll be doing our championship preview now.
Just speaking to Joe, you know that certain players have had a couple of weeks off. Some players have had longer than others. So it's going to be interesting to see how players react to shorter pre-seasons, longer pre-seasons, longer rest, shorter rest. You know, because it's everyone's different. You know that sometimes the less rest and as long as you've mentally prepared, right? That you know, I mean, physically, you should be all right.
Yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see. Just before we do go into Joe's, I just had a question from Joshua Arnold. It's an interesting one, so I thought I'd ask this one. It says, what's it like playing with Alex Pattinson? He's a Middlesbrough fan, Joshua is. He said, I thought he would have broken into the first team at Middlesbrough but he wasn't, so he's gone out first on loan to York City, then Yeovil, before joining Wycombe. Hope he does well in the Championship.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's got loads of energy, good engine on him. Yeah, very good player. And I think he was just unlucky at Middlesbrough. Look, it's hard when you're a young lad coming through at a big club, and I think he just wanted to get away. And unfortunately, he went through some tough stuff at home with his mum. And you know, he's come to us, and I think he's had a bit of a new lease of life the last year. And he played a big part in the playoffs for us, and in the final came on and did a good job. So he's looking to have a big season, and yeah, you could tell he's been working really hard in the summer. He's come back, he's lost a load of weight, and he's on one at the minute, and it's good to see.
I think, Joe, it's nice to see lads be given an opportunity, isn't it? Because you know what I mean. Everybody finds a right team sometimes. You know what I mean? You can go to this team, doesn't work out. You can go to that team, doesn't work out. Because he's had such upheaval at Middlesbrough with so many managers in a short space of time, and he's impressed one manager. He leaves. He impresses the next manager. Doesn't get a chance. The new manager comes in, doesn't like him, or doesn't see his potential. So he's got to move on. And the disappointments of being a young player sometimes, you know what I mean, that you move from club to club and then all of a sudden you find your belief in a manager. Obviously Gareth, obviously your manager, likes him, gives him an opportunity to platform his career and hopefully he can progress up to get where he wants to be as a footballer.
Yeah, and also, you know, when you're a young lad coming through and a new manager comes in, the last thing they're going to do is put a youngster in that they don't know too much about rather than a big name or an experienced pro. So it's always hard as a young lad trying to have a manager who's kind of settled and knows them and can kind of trust them and then throw them in then.
Yeah, totally agree. So it's so disappointing. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd be very happy if someone asked me to start all over again and be a young lad in football. I think I don't know if I'd be able to handle it again. Honestly,
It's really
especially
hard,
especially knowing what you know. You know what I mean? If we were going in blind, it might be a different scenario. But knowing what I know now, I think I'd crash and burn.
There you go. Brutally honest. Okay, so let's touch on your career a bit, Joe. What's your earliest football-related memory?
I think I went to see Wales play against Romania. You know, at the Old Arms Park. I think it was about '94, and they had to win to qualify for the World Cup. Was it? I think at that time, and they lost. I think did Wales go 1-0 up, or they lost 2-1, or someone missed a penalty. I can't quite remember.
Was it Paul Borden? Did Paul Borden miss a penalty?
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah, Paul Bowden missed a penalty.
And I remember my dad coming to my school and... Yeah, sorry. Just, giving me tickets. I don't know whether it's for my birthday or something. Gave me a present. I went with my dad. And I think that was the year as well, or that game where, unfortunately, someone got killed in the stand by a firework or a missile, some sort of missile, yeah. So that was my first game I went to. And then also around the same time was when Cardiff beat Man City in the FA Cup. I think about '95. Yeah, when they won 1-0. So that was, for me, I think that's the earliest kind of proper football memories I've got.
With Paul Borden missing a penalty then, Joe, is that why you became a penalty specialist to eradicate the memories?
That's it, yeah. We won't talk about the penalty I missed on the weekend in the friendly, so let's...
Did you? Oh, okay. Do you know what? I wouldn't have mentioned it because I didn't know about it.
I'm not too bad.
Did Jack Grealish play on Saturday?
Yeah, he did, yeah. Very good player. Very good.
Is he? Do you think he's good enough to make the jump to a top 6 club? Because he's obviously been heavily linked with United and a few others. Do you think he's ready?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's, for someone so young to kind of, he's carried that team for the last 2 years, and everything goes through him. Everything. The players look for him. He doesn't give the ball away. He's got, he trusts himself and his ability to kind of run the game for them. And you can see, even in the friendly game, every time someone got the ball, it was like, where's he? Let me give the ball to him, and he's going to create something. And you can just tell he's got that aura about him, that confidence, where he's ready to go to one of the big boys. And for me, I think he deserves. I couldn't believe he wasn't in the England squad last week when that guy.
He is now, isn't he?
I know.
Now they've had 5 people have pulled out. So now he's in.
Yeah.
He should have been I agree with you. For me, he's deserved this opportunity. I know he let himself down during COVID, and he did something he shouldn't have done. But listen, he's a young man. He's made mistakes. Joe said there about other players looking up to him. We're not just on about a talented footballer, by the way. We're on about a player who the manager's made captain at a very young age, and leads by example. Leads by example, and he's got the pressure of the fans, the pressure of the players, the pressure of everything on his shoulders at Villa. And I think for me, I think he'd progress a little bit faster and a little bit better moving, because he wouldn't probably have that extra pressure of having to carry the fans as well. Because I think if he went to a United or a Tottenham or something in the Champions League, I think he could probably relax a little bit and play his football instead of worrying that if they lose that he takes it to heart. You know what I mean? I think as any young player who's played for their hometown club, it's difficult because you don't want to let the fans down, and every time you do lose or play badly, you take it worse because you feel as though you've let the fans down. And you played for your hometown club and for a team you supported. I did the same at Middlesbrough, and I was the same. That you play badly, you take it to heart. You lose or you miss a chance, you take it even worse than any other normal player would.
Yeah, definitely.
Arguably, I don't know whether he'd get into the United midfield now if they signed Van de Beek, unless Pogba goes. But it'd be interesting to see what he does. Here's a question for you. It's a tricky one. Kelly says, what's people's thoughts on how Robson Kanu being back in the Wales team? It feels like he made himself available after we qualified. Because obviously he retired, didn't he? Or he made himself unavailable when Giggs took over.
I think it's listen. for me, there's no prouder moment than wearing your country's shirt. You know, that I think anyone in the right mind to retire from international football is ridiculous, because for me, you want to play football at the highest level for as long as you possibly can. So when you retire, unless there's probably a health or a fitness reason behind it, that you want to try and prolong your football career and not having to travel and try and play another couple of seasons at a certain age, that's the only way that I would probably do it. I was very surprised why he did it, and I'm pleased he's come out, because I think in that area, I think Wales really will really excel with him up there, because I think he's, especially the way that he finished the season, I think he was excellent towards the end of the season for West Brom.
He had a good season.
You know what I mean? He did.
Christmas time, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and I think West Brom probably wouldn't have struggled to get over the line if he'd have played a full season and been fit at the start of the season. So, you know what I mean? For me, he's an excellent footballer, and I just hope he's given an opportunity by the fans, and fans don't see it as a negative, or give him an opportunity to excel, really, because I think it could be publicised differently, though, couldn't it? Depends how people look at it.
As a Welsh fan, I think I'll be disappointed if Kiefer Moore doesn't. If he starts in front of Kiefer Moore in the next game, I'd be very disappointed, because Kiefer Moore, regardless of what I think about Cardiff signing him, I think has been outstanding for Wales. He's done very, very well with Daniel James and Bale, etc., just behind him. And I'd be disappointed if Giggs was to put Robson Kanu as a starter straight away. But, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. Joe, anything to add on that, mate?
Yeah, you don't know whether it's come from Ryan Giggs giving him a call, because I think Wales are a little bit probably light in this, you know, the number 9 area, and haven't got someone who's going to score goals for fun for them. So I think it gives them another little avenue to go down. Like you said, Kiefer Moore's done very well as well, and you know, he deserves his opportunity. But you know what fans are like, if Robson Kanu comes on, scores a goal straight away, or the winner somewhere, then it's all forgotten about, and it's good. And the more people that can be available for Wales, you know, they haven't got masses to kind of choose from, so the more people at the best level possible that they can choose from, it can only help them next summer.
Totally agree. Joe, back onto you. Obviously, we spoke about certain players who've excelled by moving to certain clubs. How important have loan moves been in your career? Because you've had a few. I've had a few in my career, and I'll give my opinion after. I'd be interested to see how you feel about loan moves in general and how they've affected you.
So for me personally, I think I've used them at the right times. You know, when I was a young lad at Cardiff, and I knew I wasn't, you know, going to play as much as I wanted to, and I needed to go and play games, and got a great loan move at Bristol Rovers, and it coincided with us, you know, going on a great run. I was there from February, March time, and ended up, you know, getting promoted with them and through the playoffs that season. And it turned out to turn into a permanent move. You know, I left Cardiff at the time when I may have, you know, stayed. I still had years left on my contract, but I think once you get that taste of first team football, then you know, you're desperate for more. And I went to Accrington before that. Played a few games up there. It was nice to kind of move away and experience something else away from home, and live in a different part of the country that I wasn't used to. But you know, I'm thankful for them to give me my first kind of league start, and played a few games, scored my first ever goal. And you know, for me, I go into it, and you know, I joined their fight. You know, whatever it was, I wanted to give my all and impress, and because my sole motivation at the time was to kind of go back to Cardiff and prove to them that I should be playing there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and the other loan move I have was when I was at Oldham, when I said I was, you know, kind of desperate to get out and play some football. And lucky for me, John Coleman at Accrington gave me another opportunity to kind of go back, and it probably, you know, saved my career a little bit, that I was able to go play another 20 games, which, you know, in the end got me a move to Shrewsbury, because, you know, we did so well as a club. And, you know, I can't thank them enough for they've probably kept me in the game for as long as I have done, just because of, you know, time in those loan moves. But we obviously get a lot of loan moves loan players at Wycombe coming in, and a lot of them can go on and do amazing things. We had Alfie Mawson came in, you know, and had an unbelievable season, and went to be a Premier League player. But then you also have a lot of players who come in, and you can tell that they don't want to take on your fight. They're there for selfish reasons. I know you have to be selfish, but in a team environment, you do have to, you know, do well for the team to kind of promote yourself as well. And we've had some that don't understand that, and they kind of get left behind, and you can tell that they obviously then don't, have a long career in the game. One of the exceptions to that is we had Eberici Eze, who's just got his move to Crystal Palace, and 2 or 3 years ago he came in, and this young lad who had a bit of a bad reputation at the time of being a bit of an attitude, didn't really care too much, but he came in, and from the first day he was the most humble boy. He, whatever style of football we wanted to play, it might not have suited him, but he just did what the manager asked every day in training. He was smiling, enjoying himself. He was ridiculous for us for 3 or 4 months. And, I'm surprised he's not gone to a top 6 team. I think he's that good. I think he's...
Well, we've raved about him. We've raved about him, Joe, on our championship show. And I'm glad you said that. It was a great insight, by the way, because I think sometimes loan moves are disrespected by certain players, and also clubs as well. I think certain clubs use them as a tool just to get players out and out on mass. But I think they're so important because it's your development and your developmental side of the game that you're there to learn a trade, and you're there to play in front of crowds, and you're there to learn to play adult football and men's football and competitive games. And I'm a massive advocate. I absolutely adore loans football, because I think it's better than playing in the under 18s or playing reserve team football, because it's the only means of getting fit and staying where you are. For me, you go and learn a different way of playing, different formations, playing with different players, different managers. You can live in a different area, and it's such a different way of looking at it, and it gets you ready for moving around, because you know young players, Joe, at Cardiff, who probably didn't leave Cardiff after being released and didn't continue the football careers, but they were very good footballers, but they didn't want to leave that safe environment, whereas you went here, there and everywhere, and find yourself now living in a different city, in a different country from where you were brought up, and that's because you wanted to fulfil your dream, and that's because you wanted to play football, and it's such a credit to you, because I've said all along, and I said it on a show a couple of weeks ago, that there was probably 8 players in my youth team out of 10 who were better footballers than me, but one thing that I wanted was I wanted to be a footballer more than they wanted to be a footballer, and I tried more than they tried, and I give everything on a daily basis, and I would have walked over my mum and dad to be a player, and you know what I mean, and that's just the way I was. I had the right attitude, and sometimes attitude overrides ability. Sometimes. One thing that I want to touch with you, Joe. One thing I want to touch with you is an incident what happened to Bristol Rovers. And I want to know what happened in terms of, did you get much stick from it? Obviously, the incident was an accident with Kieron Dyer, and obviously I watched the game, so it was a live game on Sky. I think it was a league. I think it was what was it? Coca-Cola Cup, League Cup, whatever it was. It was probably something like that, wasn't it? And obviously you went to kick the ball. Obviously Kieron Dyer, I think his leg planted still. I think you might have even won the ball. And did he break his leg? Is that what happened? Did he break his leg in an accident?
Yeah, it was really innocuous.
Tibula, didn't he?
Yeah, he broke both his fib and his tib in the same thing, and it was really not innocuous. But I remember speaking to the physios, and they were saying for it to have injured him as badly as it did from the contact was really surprising, and it was really unfortunate. And I remember the manager came out after the game, Alan Kirbishley, and said something, or maybe he said something in the press after the game about it, and give me a little bit of stick. And I was a bit young and naive at the time, so I didn't really know the bigger picture of what was going on. I remember walking out the ground, and there was a journalist there, just started walking with me, and he was like, so what, what do you think of it? Do you regret what's happened, or something like that? And I just said, well, I said something about the tackle and the incident. I said it wasn't really my fault, just the way it was unlucky and stuff. And the next day there was a headline in the Sun saying, Joe, Dyer injuries, not my fault. And I was like, no, this is not what I wanted to come out of this. I remember I sent him a card. Just wishing him well and things like that, sent to the club. I don't know whether he received it or not. And I actually remember I was during one of the Wales squads, and Jack Collison was obviously at West Ham at the time, and Bellamy was very close to him. And I remember Jack telling me that they had spoke about it, and I think Jack and Bellamy, because I knew him from the Welsh, set up a couple of things. We'd met obviously in camps, and he said, he's a good guy, he wouldn't do anything like that. And I think that kind of, I don't know whether Kieron Dyer had thought too much, but he did. I actually read his book, and he does mention it in the book, and kind of just calls me some lower league journeyman or something like that. He said in the book. So it's just one of those unfortunate kind of.
Would you like to speak to him, Joe? Would you like to speak to him face to face, or did you expect after you sent the card? Did you expect him to get in touch and say something like it's okay or it was an accident or?
No, I didn't expect a reply. I didn't. I did that because I wanted to just send my condolences. But I didn't expect anything. And look, people get injured from tackles and things all the time. And I wasn't expecting anything back, but I don't necessarily need to speak to him or come face to face with him. If you want to speak to me, fine, I'll do it. But for me, I know at the time there was no malice in it or anything like that. It was just an unfortunate incident, and unfortunately these kind of things happen in football. It's a contact sport, and players get injured, and that's kind of it, really.
Well, I'll second that, because obviously I know you as a lad. I know you personally. I grew up, obviously playing in the same side as you, and I watched the game, and I'll advocate, fully that it was an accident. It was just one of those things, and I've been on the wrong end of a couple of horror tackles, and sometimes it's the innocuous tackles or the softer tackles which cause the most problems, because it's just the way that you land or things. And but a little bit more positive. So you mentioned a manager there. You mentioned John Coleman. Obviously, at certain times in your career, John's obviously really wanted you. Obviously, the timing's obviously been right. You've gone there on a couple of loan moves. So how influential has he been in short bursts of your career?
Like I said, my first opportunity in playing consistently in the Football League was with him in Accrington, and it was hard. They were having a bit of a relegation. I think it was the first year they were in the Football League. They come back into the Football League. So for them to kind of give me an opportunity and trust me to kind of help with their battle, I really appreciate that. I think I played 7 games in the 2 months and found myself out of the team, and I could have stayed there to the end of the season, but I wanted to go and play football, and he couldn't really guarantee me that at the time. So fortunately it worked out that I went to Bristol. But when I went back again, he was amazing to me for kind of, again, like I said, kind of resurrecting my career, as it were. And if we had a very good team at Accrington at the time. We managed to get into the playoffs. Unfortunately, I got sent off in the second leg of the playoffs, and to end it on that kind of note wasn't best. But for John Coleman to kind of be how he was with me, I can't thank him enough.
Yeah, and you get managers though, Joe, don't you, who believe in you and bring the best out of you. And there's are certain people, and especially within football, and I think there's always the kind of people that you don't expect, other people don't expect, and John Coleman, for me, he's got a great reputation. He did a wonderful job at Accrington, to get them from where they were, obviously into the league. He kept them in the league for so many years, and he gave them a fantastic opportunity to fulfil potential at a football club now, and look where they are now, and it's all down to him. And it was just it's a credit to the players that he brought in, like yourself, and trusted individuals, because it's part of the process, isn't it? The players have to buy into what a manager wants to do. The managers, the players have to buy into what he's doing, and vice versa. And he just seems
he does stuff differently, that's for sure. The way they did stuff there when I first went there, I was like, wow, what's going on here? It was completely new to me. The little the stuff they do to get the boys together and the camaraderie and things like that, I was like, this is alien to me, but it works. And that's what they do there. And for a team who has a very low budget, they overachieve massively every season. It's down to him and Jimmy Bell, the assistant, and they get players playing from them. They play very, very good football. They get a lot of, obviously, the players from Everton and Liverpool who come over to them and play for them, and they're really successful. And I only give them credit whenever I see them and play against them and things like that.
So from one manager to another, we'll go straight away to your current manager now. So obviously Sir Gareth Ainsworth done an absolutely cracking job. Obviously a teammate of mine and yours, obviously going on to play with him also. So how did you find him as a manager? Is he different to when he was a player?
To be honest, I was only in the youth. I was like a YT when he was there. so I didn't have too much time with him. But I've actually played against him a couple of times. He actually ripped me up a few times. And
Is that when he was at QPR?
No, when he was at Wycombe. I played against him when I was at Oldham, and I played against him. I wasn't fit and I couldn't really run, and the gaffer's quick. He's still quick now. He still beats some of the players in the sprint test and things like that, and he's 44 or something. But I remember coming off that game and the manager hammering me saying, he's 40 years old, he's running past you, he's setting up goals, and I was just like, you know what, that was probably the end of my Oldham career, actually. And I tell him about it. I tell the gaffer about it. But he's been unbelievable for me. First of all, off the pitch, he just wants to be like a father figure to everyone. He's never having a go at you. He has this way of just kind of wanting you to never let him down. And it's not like he bigs you up too much or he praises you too much, but he's just kind of consistent with you. You know, as a player, you want to know that, you know, you get your Wednesdays off, you get your Sundays off. He'll never, you know, come in after a 5-0 defeat and say, right, you're in tomorrow, we're going to run you, we're going to do this. He's so consistent. He looks after you if you need extra days, if you've got family issues, there's never a problem. If you need an extra day recovery, you know, I don't know how I'm not in the old group at the club, but a lot of the older boys don't have to come in on a Monday for the cool downs if they're travelling and things like that. He just knows how to get the best out of players, and they've created an amazing culture at Wycombe where, you know, everyone's open, everyone's honest, everyone can talk to each other. They've created this thing called the Generals, where there's 5 or 6 of us who kind of marshal the changing room. He doesn't need to do anything. The players kind of trust that situation, so if they've got an issue, they can come to one of us who's probably been there and experienced what they've gone through between the 5 of us, and it just works. And then on the pitch, he's just kind of simplified my game a lot. He's you know, I'm still playing, you know, consistently at 33, and he's probably added years onto my career span, really, by just simplifying everything, telling me not to do too much, you know, using my attributes to suit me and to get the best out of me, and it's no coincidence that I've played the best football of my career under him, and I've been the most successful. So you know, I can't give him enough credit for what he's done.
Cracking. I think I've got an answer to one of your questions there. Because you want to know why you're not in the older group? Because when I had a conversation with you the other day, and I told him that you're coming on the show, we were talking about young Joe. And when I talk about young Joe, because I talk about young Joe as in when I thought I was at Cardiff at the time, so young Joe, and you just told me you're 33, which makes me, honestly, it finishes me off. When I mentioned to Gaz, I've got young Joe coming on the show, 33-year-old. Jesus, it ruined you. It ruined you. But no,
I'm lucky we've got a few older boys there, so that's what helps.
I know you must be. You must have loads if you're not in the old group.
Yeah.
Obviously, we looked at your hat trick. We mentioned your hat trick, which is obviously an unbelievable achievement. You know what I mean? That something that you'll cherish forever. You know what I mean? You told me you got the match ball, which is great. You know that I was fortunate enough to get 2 in my career. One was for Cardiff, and the things that nobody can take away from you. They're unbelievable experiences. But then what comes with unbelievable experiences is something that you achieved, obviously not so long ago, and that was playing at Wembley, playing in the playoff final. And scoring the winning goal. So first of all, the semi-final against Fleetwood was obviously on paper was a tricky one. Joey Barton's got his team playing some decent football. He's brought in some good footballers. But I watched both games and I thought you dominated both games really comfortably, and you scored some very good goals over the course of 2 games. Yeah,
I don't think anyone gave us a chance. I think there was a lot of uproar in the league with the points per game, because that kind of pushed us, you know, up the table a couple of places. But the only reason why we were in that situation was because we were supposed to play Bury the week before, didn't play a game, went down a couple of places. And that was the first game all season we weren't in the top 6. I think we spent more time in the top 2 than anyone else, more time in the top 6 than anyone else. So we definitely deserved to be there. And I think people were desperate for us to kind of fail at that hurdle. And we went to Fleetwood, and we spoke about a few of the games at the start of lockdown where the tempo of the game was quite slow. Players were a little bit lethargic. There was no kind of atmosphere created by the team. So we just wanted to go there and hit them hard. And I think we just blew them away for the first 20, 25 minutes, and they couldn't deal with it. We ended up being 2 or 3 goals up. They were down to 10 men. I think we could have scored more goals. And I think we hit them so hard that they were a bit shook. And when they came back to our place, I think we had a comfortable lead. But that was the day before that game was probably the most nervous I've been in my whole career before a game. I think because we had something to lose, even though we were 4-1 up in the semi-final. No one kind of would expect anything else. But I think because we had something to lose, and if we did lose, it would have been a catastrophe. That the nerves were there. But we rode a storm. They played. That was probably the best footballing team we played all season that day. But we came through it with a draw, and I thought we thoroughly deserved to get to the final.
Yeah, I totally agree. But like you said, nobody gave you a chance in the semi-final. You get to the final, you think you deserve a little bit more respect. You play Oxford United straight away. Oxford the favourites, which I don't know. I don't know how all that works. You're going into a game at Wembley in front of no fans. It's for me, it's so even. For me, you can't call things like that. But obviously the experts went with Oxford. So tell us about that game, because obviously you spoke about the atmosphere, obviously with no fans being there. But tell us about the game, because obviously you got off to a great start, got pegged back, and then obviously the second half you took over.
Yeah, and look, we played against Oxford earlier on the season, and they were very good again and beat us. We had a player sent off after half an hour or something, and they kind of dominated. But after 5 minutes in the final, I turned around to someone and I said, "We've got these. We've got them." Just because I think we were. You could tell by body language and by just our attitude. I think we were just on top of them, and they seemed a little bit subdued. They weren't really pressing us. They weren't really, playing with any sort of tempo. And I just thought that suited us massively. And we're very good at, we can sit in and defend leads, and we've got. I said it after the game. We've got strikers who are, the trickiest. Fred Onyedinma, who's very quick and tricky and can score goals. Yeah, he's happy to do 60-yard runs back to help me out and double up on wingers and things like that. So, we're happy to defend as a team. And I thought, they did score a lucky goal after the first goal, but I thought we were comfortable. They probably had more possession, but that's normal for us. And when we've always got an opportunity on the counter attack and on the break, and fortunately we got the penalty and we scored. And I think after the goal, I was expecting them to come at us with a lot more, but I still think the last 15 was comfortable. I've watched it back quite a few times, and there was never really any opportunities where we let them have any decent sights at goal. And yeah, it was all after the game. The first thing you want to do is see your family. I've been at Wembley before and lost, and went to see my family, and obviously they were consoling me. But this is the one time I wanted to go and kind of grab them and celebrate with them. But they were in no fit state to be doing anything the way they were in that night as well, which was nice. And then it probably allowed us as well. We were all FaceTiming on the pitch. We were able to stay on the pitch for longer, and it's one of those special moments. You'd have known about it when you go inside the changing room where you're away from everyone. It's just you boys who have done it. It's some feeling, something that it's like a drug. You're desperate to have more of those times.
Yeah, and I think you just mentioned it there. I think it's so important to celebrate in the right way. You weren't able to celebrate with the fans, so you've got to do it in a different environment. So you do it on FaceTime with your own family, and you do it with the players behind closed doors, and it's such a.
It gives you a different feeling though as well, isn't it? Like you just mentioned, you wouldn't be able to do those things on the pitch. So whilst you lose that kind of interaction with your family and friends on the Wembley pitch, you do get like a completely different experience. You still get the adrenaline and, like you say, like the atmosphere after with your teammates and stuff and the staff, but you also get like a unique experience of doing FaceTimes on the pitch and being able to stay on the pitch. So I suppose there is like a positive to not being able to celebrate with your friends and family straight after the game.
Yeah, the security kind of kicked us out in the end at Wembley, because we were just there. I don't know what we were doing. We were just hanging around there because we didn't have like a party to go to or anything arranged. We just kind of we were just there. I think some of the boys didn't even change. We left at about 11 o'clock at night, and some of the boys still hadn't had a shower after the game, still in their full kit. Just kind of got on the coach and went back to the training ground. We ended up going to a pub in Wycombe in Marlow, which they kind of, one of the owner of it was a bit of a fan, so let us in there, and went back to the stadium where it was just the boys and the staff kind of just drinking and talking about the game for a few hours. And it was pretty cool. One of those nights where you couldn't plan. You could never plan something like that and it come off any better.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Last question from me. So you mentioned FaceTime, you mentioned a little bit of social media. So obviously a very famous player in your team is obviously the Beast, and he loves a little bit of FaceTime, he loves a little bit of social media. But there's more to him than that. I think sometimes he gets a little bit bad press about how talented he is as a footballer as well. You know that probably would be something of a dream partner for a player of my ability, obviously with a bit of pace. But what's he like to play with, and what's he like as a lad?
First of all, to play with, he's, again, probably added years onto my career. You know, having him in the team, all I've got to do is kind of, you know, ping the ball upfield, and if it's near him, he's bringing it down. His touch is unbelievable. Like, not just with his head or with his chest, but his feet. He's got great, I know there's the saying great feet for a big man, but technically he's very, very good. We do finishing drills and his volleys, left foot, right foot. He's very, very good. He doesn't get the credit he deserves, and he's a big reason why we're in League One in the first place. The couple of years before that, he's finished. I think he's been there 4 years. He's finished top goal scorer every season.
Wow.
He's incredible, and off the pitch, he's a really, really humble guy, and he's you know massively team orientated. If I can spit it out. You know, he wants to do well for the team. He may not be out on the training pitch every day, but he's in the gym battering himself, you know, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and doing his own fitness work. And just little things like my own experience with him is, I remember last summer watching the cricket, a bit of a cricket fan, watching the Ashes, and he was at an event with Jofra Archer, and you know, the next day he came in and I was like, oh, you were my hero, like, after what he's done this summer and things like that. And Bayer was like, to be honest, I didn't know who he was beforehand, you know, I'm not into cricket. Next thing you know, about a month later, I get a WhatsApp video of him being like, JK, look, I told you I'd sort you out, told you. And he's him and Jofra Archer, and Jofra Archer's sending me a nice little message, and just little things like that he doesn't have to do. But it's, you know, he got there and he's thinking about me when he's doing it and things like that. So he's been, he's been awesome and a massive part of really, really nice guy. And you know, whenever he sees my dad's at games and my mum, he's always coming over and saying hello to everyone and entertaining it. And look, he's a commodity in the Football League. He's probably the most famous player outside the Premier League. He's, you know, his social media following, he's got millions, and he's a different,
he's one of my dream
kind of
guests.
fish to anyone else.
He's on my top 5 list.
I'm sure he is. Yeah,
I'd like to have on the show. He's right up there with Roy Keane and Joey Barton and a couple of other. Like, he's a legend. Like,
get them all and have like a Royal Rumble or something.
Yeah, just have like a 4 or 5 person show. Roy Keane, Joey Barton, Akin Fenwa, and a few others. It'd be incredible stuff. Joe, just before we finish off with the questions from the live chat, and if Andy's got anything else he wants to go, I just wanted to ask you a couple of things about your time at Cardiff. Obviously, you were a Cardiff boy. You came through the system. Did you feel extra pressure because you'd come through the system, and obviously the fans want that homegrown player? I
didn't feel extra pressure. It was always my dream to play for Cardiff, to make it into the first team. And I don't think you realise, looking back now, I've played 500 odd games. You don't realise how hard it is to make that first appearance, that one appearance. And you know, you see players. I was fortunate to come up with Joe Ledley in the same age group, so I was never. There was never any pressure on me to kind of make it. I was never the star player in my age group. I was probably, you know, just middle of the road, like Cams was saying earlier. But I just kind of wanted it, and made sure I trained right and did things right. And it was only probably my, you know, you do your 3-year YTS. It was only probably my 3rd year where I started. You know, I was never in the Wales setup as a kid where all the other players were, and it was only, like I said, when I was about 18 where I started kind of progressing and doing well, playing reserve team games, and I was desperate, and unfortunately I managed to make my debut at home to Norwich towards the end of that season, and it was, and honestly that was it for me. I thought, you know, I'm done it. I've kind of landed, and that was, you know, still to me that is the best moment of my career is making my debut there and having my family there and things like that. And I kind of wish that looking back, I don't have any regrets, but I kind of wish I'd stayed and kind of forced my way through. I think I would have had more opportunities, but like I said, I went on loan and I was so desperate to kind of just play week in, week out. I got a good offer from Bristol. I was only up and down one division, and you never think that was kind of going to be the last time I played in a championship for 10, 12 years, but it kind of worked out that way, and yeah, that's just what it is. But yeah, it was, like I said, it was awesome playing at Ninian Park, and from my hometown club. I'm sure lots of people would want to play for bigger teams and have aspirations for that, but for me it was just trying to get on the pitch for Cardiff, and I've got my shirt up on the wall at home at my parents' house, and that's something that no one can take away from me.
Totally agree. Massive achievement though, Joe. Massive achievement.
100%, mate. If the opportunity were to arise, Joe, before you retire, hopefully not for a good few years, would you like to, have another stint at the mighty Bluebirds?
Yeah, of course. Why not? Like I said, it's a team where, not that I said I had unfinished business, but something where I wish I kind of stayed and had a longer spell. I'm not sure. I'm sure my parents would love me to move back to Cardiff and have me close by. Yeah. Not sure my sisters would be too happy about moving back down there. But
Cardiff is a beautiful city. It's a beautiful.
No, she's from Cardiff as well.
Oh,
she's from Cardiff, and that even more so if she wants to stay away.
I like it.
If it came, obviously, I'd love to happen. But look, I'm not.
I know you're
holding out for anything like that, and I love where I am at the minute. I'm at a place where I'm looked after. I get on well with all the players, with the staff. They trust me. The fans are great with me. So, if it was down to me, I'd happily finish my career at Wycombe for sure.
100%. Andy, have you got anything else you want to cover, mate, before I finish off with
No.
live chat?
I think we've got a live chat. He's been an amazing guest with some great honest answers, and some amazing stories.
Indeed. Okay, so I'm going to fly through some of these because there's lots of them. Donna Perry says, which teams do you think will be Wycombe's rivals for the Championship glory this year? And do you think Cardiff are looking strong?
Yeah, I think they surprised me, Cardiff, how well they did last season. I didn't expect them to be challenging so high. Neil Harris obviously done a very good job. And I think if they can add... They've obviously had Kiefer Moore, which I think is something they need. I think if they can get someone to score 15 goals at front for them, I think they'll be right up there again. I think they're solid. Don't think they concede too many. They've got a little bit of magic. If they can keep Tomlin fit for the season, I think he's a huge player for them. Can be the best player in the Championship when he wants to be. And I think they'll be up there. I think the team's obviously coming down with... It's not as easy, I don't think, coming down from the Premier League. Teams like Norwich, who have gone from losing every week, don't all of a sudden turn that around and kind of create a winning mentality is not easy. I think Bournemouth would be strong, Brentford again, but it depends on if a lot of these teams can keep hold of their best players as well. Let's talk of a couple of Brentford players getting moves and how will that affect them. So I think your usual Fulham obviously gone up, Brentford will be up there. And I'm not sure. I think the Championship's quite even this season. I think there's probably 10, 15 teams who all think they can compete that end. But I think Cardiff, they probably may not have an opportunity better to kind of go up again.
Yeah, totally agree.
What about like Wycombe? Your aims as a team, and is it just to stay up? Is it top 10? What sort of aims are you looking at? Do you think?
We haven't really discussed specifics about what we want to do. Obviously, first and foremost, we want to stay in the league, and we haven't said we want to finish fourth bottom or anything like that, because I think if you fail at that, then you're relegated. If you aim to finish top, then you can finish second, third. Obviously it's going to be really difficult. We're going to have the smallest budget in the league, probably the smallest stadium in the league. No one's going to give us a chance at doing anything this season. So we just want to go there, make a noise, kind of compete. We've got an unbelievable team spirit that has carried us the last few years to where we are. So if we can carry that momentum through that we've got from last season, then we want to try and compete and win as many games of football as we can.
Yeah, 100%, mate. So a few of the other questions we've already covered, like someone asked about what's Akin Fenway like to have in the squad. Obviously, we covered that. Richie asks, who was your icon growing up, and who have you looked up to during your career?
Do you know what? Growing up, my icon was Leggy. Just from watching Cardiff, I loved his energy and his attitude and all things like that. And that, honestly, my goal when I was growing up was to be like Andy Legg. I tried to get a long throw like him, and his left peg. I felt a bit like starstruck when I played. I don't know if you played in it, Cams, where he had that benefit match at Cardiff.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't tell us, by the way. We had him on the show last week. I wouldn't have been able to keep a straight face.
So it was, and I played in that. I came on in that game, I remember, and I was like, I'm playing in Leggy's benefit match here, and it was pretty awesome. But I say he was growing up. When I was a young kid, I think it was Ryan Giggs, just because I wanted to be a winger, left-footed, and obviously the stardom that he had when he was younger and things like that. And
no better role model.
Didn't have a space.
No better role model when you're a young Welsh player.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Of course, yeah. I'd say him.
Okay, so we got a regular viewer called Peaches Tan, who's from Scandinavia somewhere, I think. But she hasn't been here for a while, and she used to send Andy word associations where you just name a player or a place or something, and you've got to just say the first thing which comes to mind. And she's back today. She says, "Hey guys, I've missed you. I've got a word association for Andy and Joe. So we'll go with Andy's first, then we'll finish with Joe's. So Andy first. Paul Pogba.
Oh, World Cup winner.
Kasper Schmeichel.
Oh, not as good as his dad.
Neil Warnock.
Current Middlesbrough saviour.
And finally she says Ake.
£40.
40 quid. Good answer. 40 quid. And here we go then. Joe, word association. Craig Bellamy.
Oh, intense. I'll go with.
Like you.
Lenny Lawrence.
Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns, I was just about to say the same thing myself.
Ryan Giggs.
Hero.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Ooh. On eggshells.
I like it. Okay. Joe, I appreciate you staying an extra 20 odd minutes.
Me too.
I appreciate your extra time, mate. But it's been a very, very enjoyable show. Thank you, obviously, to everyone who's tuned in, dropped comments, watched, liked, even the person who left an angry face. Thank you very much. Didn't explain why, so I still have no idea. It's bizarre. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in, getting involved. Spread the word. Tell people live every Monday, 7:30. The Andy Campbell Football Show, and of course the Andy Campbell Championship Show will be back a week Friday, but we have another special show coming up on Friday at 7 o'clock. Andy, did you want to discuss
we've got Rob Jones, ex Hibernian centre half. He currently works for Middlesbrough Football Club. He's desperate to be a manager, so he's going to come and tell us all about his journey and all about his hopes in the future of becoming everything and more he wants to be.
Top man, looking forward to that, mate. So I've been enjoying those Friday shows as well, doing something different. Obviously last week we had Rebecca Bass, the current ladies Middlesbrough captain, which was talking women's football, which was very enjoyable. We've had the referee on there as well, so we have lots of different shows, and the championship show will be back a week Friday to preview the championship season. Cannot wait. Big thank you to Black Diamond Sports, of course, and also Bespoke Financial, who sponsored the show. If you get time, you can check out all the other shows on A.C.E Podcast Nation, including Crazy Football with Super Kevin McNaughton, which episode 1 dropped yesterday, finally. And I'll also be speaking to Phil Brown of TalkSport and Beyond the Pitch this week. So if you've got any questions for him, you send them in. But in the meantime, I thank you, Andy. It's been a pleasure, mate, as always. And Joe Jacobson, playoff hero, Cardiff-born, Cardiff-bred legend. Thank you, my friend, for joining us.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Joe. Lovely show.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Immensely.
Thanks for having me on.
Good luck this season.
Cheers.
Indeed, except against Cardiff. Just to clarify, you can beat Middlesbrough 5-0 for all you know. That's just funny to me because Andy will be like crying on the Monday night. But,
as long as Joe's got that trick, it might dilute it a little bit.
Softens the blow.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
There you go. Cheers, guys, and cheers to everyone else. See you soon.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.